My boots slipped on the concrete as the whistle shrieked, splitting the dawn apart. The factory floor still smelled of oil and burnt coffee. I kept my head down, but the line foreman Manuel, with his fading tattoo and eyes full of early morning suspicion, called out my name in that familiar tone, half warning, half dare. "David, you know it's time now, don't you?" I wiped my palms against my worn coveralls and nodded. The machines behind me were already winding down. The clatter replaced by shuffling feet and muttered jokes in broad Alentejo accents. Some men shot glances my way. Two of them, Luis and Rui, cousins who never missed a chance to sneer, laughed openly. "Ai, ar científico vai salvar o mundo. Agora vai pra casa sonhar com os robôs," Luis shouted, grinning at his brother. They all knew, of course. Everyone in our corner of Almada knew. My clumsy talk at the cafe about building machines that could understand disease, that could learn faster than 1,000 doctors, my sister told them. My uncle gossiped, and my mother wept. Each time I brought up my idea, automating lab diagnostics, AI for rare pathologies, they'd say, "That's for Americans, David, not for us. Go work. Be sensible." But even that freezing morning, as the security guard watched us shuffle past with his thermos and his limp, the humiliation stung deeper than my half-empty stomach. The echoes of my own hope twisted inside me, an old ache, rage laced with the discipline I'd forged since childhood. Never let it slip, not even a flicker, on this factory floor. Outside, wind off the river stung my cheeks. The bridge loomed, red against the sky, now blushing orange. I traced the pitted sidewalk, the one I'd traced every day since I was 16, when my father got sick and the books had to wait. The bakery lights were on. I could smell the yeast, the faintest promise of sweetness. I thought for a moment of stepping inside, buying one roll, just one. But I glanced at the change in my pocket and kept moving. My mother was already up, sweeping the stoop in her slippers. She barely looked at me, just nodded at the kitchen. The same morning ritual. My sister Katerina slouched at the table, phone in hand, hair a tangled cloud. She shot me a look. "Vai trabalhar, mano?" she asked, biting into toast. "Or are you going to that crazy man's library again?" I didn't answer, dropping my bag and heading for the kettle. My hands shook as I searched for the tea. I heard my mother's footsteps behind me, her breath tight with worry. "Your uncle has a friend at the steel yard. He could get you steady work, no more night shifts," she said, softly, but with that note of tired warning. I don't want that." My voice creaked open, too sharp, and I hated it, but I couldn't take it back. She said nothing, just tightened the knot of her robe and wiped invisible crumbs from the counter. The silence lasted too long. "You're not serious, David," Katerina said, shaking her head. "No one's going to pay for your robot dreams here." I clenched my jaw, gripped the mug too hard. My rage threatened to spill, screaming at them about all the journals I read in the library at night. How my models had nearly outperformed published work on that open data set, even if no one believed me. But I swallowed it, slowly, let it coil tighter inside. "I'm going to get ready," I said simply, and I left them, heart thumping against my bones. Sometimes I thought it would be easier if they laughed or even yelled. The apathy was worse, the way everyone in our neighborhood blunted hope before it could cut. Because hope, here, was a kind of madness. I changed in my freezing bedroom, the walls plastered with crumbling notes and printouts. My laptop was secondhand, guts exposed under the table lamp. By the time the city started to blink awake, I'd loaded up my code, tuning the new protein predictor on a battered server I'd built from discarded office junk. I typed, retyped, listening for every hint of progress. The local library opened at 8:30. I wove through crowds on the tram, heat on my face from strangers' bodies. The city moved with a rhythm I'd always loved. Old men playing dominoes, school children shouting. But still, I never fit, and I felt the separation each time I caught someone's eye. The looks they gave, a gaunt guy with calloused hands, notebook in his bag, muttering about synthetic biology. I spent hours at a corner desk, the air tinged with dust and disinfectant. Here, at least, no one called me crazy. The librarians would nod, sometimes offer stale biscuits. My best friend, if I could call him that, was Senor Costa, a retired physicist, who explained Schrödinger's equation to me one winter afternoon. He'd read my models, edited my English. Once, he pressed a folded sheet into my palm, email addresses for a lab at IST, one of his former students. Reach out. No one got anywhere by asking for permission first, menino, he said, his eyes bright behind thick glasses. I did. I wrote desperate messages, attaching clumsy scripts and graphs. I heard nothing, except once from a tired postdoc who dismissed my ambitious claims. I rewrote my application again and again, each time more precise, each time more desperate. And always, every night after the factory, I'd code until my eyelids twitched. That winter, my father passed away. I kept nothing from that evening except the memory of my mother's hands, shaking, and the river dark as ink outside the window. Rage and restraint. They merged until I didn't know which was which. Time blurred. The years pulsed in cycles, seasonal layoffs, weddings in cheap halls, funerals in stone-washed sunlight. I patched together shifts, sent code to competitions, published short preprints under a borrowed university ID. Still, nothing. They'll fire you when they find out you have no diploma. Maybe. But I took it. Nights became a blur of video calls, debugging under flickering lights, translating scientific English into bruised Portuguese for my uncle when he asked why I looked so thin. But after 3 months, the startup made an announcement. New AI tool predicts rare enzymes, developed by David Fonseca, Portugal. My Portuguese surname printed in black on glowing screens. For a week, I didn't sleep, waiting for it to disappear, exposed as a joke. It didn't. They invited me to Munich, paid for my flight and a cheap hotel. I saw snow for the first time. It glittered like broken glass. The lab was everything I'd dreamed. Sleek, serious, alive. I shook hands with people whose papers I'd read in secret. That first salary changed something. Not enough to fix our ruina of a house, but it kept the lights on. My mother's hand lingered on my shoulder a moment longer that night. By then, my aunt had found the article, and her friends talked about Onoso Cientista at the Sunday market, as if it was just a local boy's prank. From there, it snowballed. An invite to speak at a conference in Boston, then a funded position at a big AI biology lab in Oxford. Letters from other companies, strangers asking for advice. I signed an NDA and helped a major pharma company. My work translated into real diagnostics, first in trial wards, then in Lisbon's hospitals. But every time I came home, my family treated it like a phase I'd outgrow. "Don't embarrass us, David," my uncle said. "Be humble." So I learned to say little, kept the awards in the suitcase, the press cuttings under the bed. Still, it burned. One February, after 6 years abroad, I got a message, cold, official, stamped. Fundação para a Ciência, invitation to present AI solutions for healthcare investment, Lisbon. This was no side room. This was the Calouste Gulbenkian Foundation, marble and glass and money. I came home on a packed TAT flight, my knees tight under the chair. My mother picked me up, her mouth flat with worry. She asked about my skin, my accent, whether I was eating strange English food. I said little, as always. That weekend, Katerina and my uncle's families gathered at my mother's flat. The kids had doubled. There was soup on the stove, fish frying, laughter echoing off stained walls. I heard my cousin whisper as I entered, "David thinks he's fancy now." I watched them, my family, the neighborhood. Watched how their faces never changed when I spoke of my life now. How Rui would tap his temple when he thought I wasn't looking. He thinks himself a genius. Poor fool. I almost refused the foundation's offer, but rage, still alive somewhere under my ribs, pushed me.